She could barely breathe, but the cowboy's arms became her shelter. The dust hung in the air like a golden veil. It drifted across the small town of Cedar Ridge, settling on everything with the weight of another scorching summer day. Emma Walsh pressed her back against the rough wooden wall of the general store, her chest rising and falling in quick, shallow breaths. The late afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on the dirt road before her. She closed her eyes and tried to focus on something other than the tightness in her lungs. The familiar wheeze was starting again. It always came when the heat grew too thick, when the dust kicked up by passing horses mixed with the dry desert air. Her condition had been with her since childhood, but lately, it seemed to be getting worse. The bell above the store's door chimed softly as Mrs. Henderson emerged, her arms full of brown paper parcels. She glanced at Emma with concern. "You all right there, dear?" the older woman asked, her voice gentle but worried. Emma nodded quickly, not wanting to draw attention. "Just taking a moment to rest," she managed between breaths. Mrs. Henderson's expression softened. "This heat is something fierce today. You make sure to get yourself some water." She patted Emma's shoulder before walking away, her footsteps muffled by the thick layer of dust coating the wooden sidewalk. Emma remained against the wall, listening to the familiar sounds of the town settling into evening, the distant lowing of cattle, the creak of wagon wheels, the soft murmur of voices from the saloon down the street. These sounds usually comforted her, but today they seemed far away, as if she were hearing them through water. She had moved to Cedar Ridge 6 months ago, seeking the dry climate that the doctor back east had recommended. "The desert air will help your lungs," he had assured her, but some days, like today, the air felt more like breathing through cotton. The sound of approaching hoofbeats made her open her eyes. A lone rider was making his way down the main street, his horse moving at an easy walk. Even from a distance, Emma recognized him. Jack Morrison. She had seen him around town, always polite, always tipping his hat to the ladies. He worked one of the larger ranches outside of town and came in for supplies every few weeks. There was something steady about him that drew her attention. Maybe it was the way he sat his horse, relaxed but alert. Or perhaps it was the quiet kindness she had witnessed when he helped old Mr. Parker with his broken wagon wheel last month. Whatever it was, Emma found herself watching him whenever their paths crossed. As he drew closer, she noticed something was different about his usual calm demeanor. His jaw was set tight, and his eyes scanned the street with unusual intensity. When he spotted her against the wall, he immediately changed direction, guiding his horse toward the general store. "Miss Walsh," he said, dismounting with fluid grace. His voice carried the slight drawl common to men who spent their lives under the open sky. "Are you feeling unwell?" Emma tried to straighten, to appear more composed than she felt. "I'm fine, Mr. Morrison. Thank you for your concern." But even as she spoke, another wave of tightness gripped her chest. Her breathing became more labored, and she found herself gripping the wall for support. The world seemed to tilt slightly, and the sounds around her grew muffled. Jack was beside her in an instant. "Easy there," he said softly, his voice calm and reassuring. "Just breathe slowly, in and out." His presence was immediately comforting. Unlike others who had witnessed her episodes, he didn't panic or call for help. Instead, he simply stood close enough that she could lean on him if needed, his steady breathing serving as a guide for her own. "There's a storm coming in from the west," he said quietly, his eyes scanning the horizon. "The pressure changes before a storm can make breathing difficult for some folks." Emma looked up at him, surprised by his understanding. Most people didn't realize that weather could affect her condition so dramatically. "My younger brother had similar troubles," Jack explained, as if reading her thoughts. "Before he passed, he taught me to watch for the signs. The way the air feels heavy, how the dust hangs differently." The mention of his brother was said with such quiet pain that Emma's heart ached for him. She had wondered about the sadness she sometimes glimpsed in his eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her breathing beginning to steady slightly. Jack nodded once, a brief acknowledgement of her sympathy. Then he turned his attention back to her. "The storm will break soon. The air will clear after that. But right now, you need to get somewhere you can breathe easier." As if summoned by his words, a low rumble of thunder rolled across the sky. The first drops of rain began to fall, creating tiny puffs of dust where they hit the dry earth. "My boarding house is just down the street," Emma said, though the idea of walking that distance in her current state felt overwhelming. "That's too far in this dust," Jack replied. He glanced around, then made a decision. "There's a covered area behind the store. It'll be sheltered from the wind and dust." Without waiting for her response, he gently took her arm. His touch was warm and steady, and Emma found herself leaning into his strength as they walked slowly around the building. The covered area was simple, but clean. A few wooden crates served as makeshift seating, and the roof provided blessed relief from the swirling dust. Jack helped her settle onto one of the crates, then positioned himself nearby, ready to assist if needed. The storm was building quickly now. The wind picked up, sending small whirlwinds of dust dancing down the main street. But here, in this sheltered space, the air was cleaner. Emma felt her lungs begin to relax. "Better?" Jack asked, his eyes never leaving her face. "Much," she replied, and meant it. For the first time in hours, breathing didn't feel like work. They sat in comfortable silence as the storm gathered strength. Jack seemed content to simply be present, not feeling the need to fill the quiet with unnecessary words. It was a quality Emma had learned to appreciate during her months in Cedar Ridge. So many people felt compelled to talk when faced with someone else's distress, but Jack understood the value of peaceful silence. The rain began in earnest, drumming against the roof above them. The sound was soothing, and the air grew cooler and cleaner with each passing minute. "Tell me about your brother," Emma said softly, surprising herself with the request. Jack was quiet for so long that she wondered if he had heard her. When he finally spoke, his voice was distant, as if he were seeing something far beyond the walls that surrounded them. "Tommy was 10 years younger than me," he began, "born with weak lungs, but the strongest spirit you ever saw. He wanted to be a cowboy so badly. Used to practice roping on everything, fence posts, chickens, our poor dog." A slight smile touched Jack's lips at the memory. "I taught him to ride when he was barely big enough to reach the stirrups. He had this way of talking to the horses, like they were his closest friends." Maybe they were. Emma listened, touched by the love evident in his voice. "The doctors said the dry air might help him, just like they told you. So our family moved out here when he was 12. For a few years, he did better. We thought we might have beaten it." Jack paused, his hands clasped loosely in front of him. "But one winter, when he was 15, he caught a fever. His lungs couldn't handle it. He died that spring." "I'm so sorry," Emma said again, the words feeling inadequate. "He made me promise something before he died," Jack continued. "Said if I ever met someone else who had trouble breathing, I should help them the way I helped him. Said maybe that would make his dying mean something." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. "He sounds like he was a wonderful person." "He was. He would have liked you, I think. You have that same quiet strength he had." The rain was falling steadily now, washing the dust from the air and bringing with it the clean scent of wet earth. Emma took a deep breath, marveling at how much easier it had become. "The storm's helping," she observed. "It usually does. Tommy taught me that too," he said. Storms were nature's way of cleaning the slate, giving everyone a fresh start. As if to prove his point, a break appeared in the clouds, allowing a shaft of golden sunlight to slant through the rain. The combination of sun and rain created a brief, brilliant rainbow arching across the sky. "Beautiful," Emma whispered. Jack turned to look at her, and something in his expression made her heart skip. "Yes," he said quietly. "It is." They watched. The storm passed together. As the rain gentled to a light drizzle and then stopped altogether, the air grew sweet and clean. Emma's breathing had returned completely to normal, but she found herself reluctant to leave this peaceful shelter. "I should probably get back," she said finally, though she made no move to rise. "Probably," Jack agreed, but he didn't move either. "Mr. Morrison," Emma began, then stopped, unsure how to voice what she was feeling. "Jack," he corrected gently. "After sharing a storm shelter, I think we can dispense with formalities." "Jack," she tried again, liking the sound of his name. "I want to, thank you. Not just for today, but for understanding. Most people don't know what to do when someone has breathing troubles. Most people haven't lived with it," he replied. "I learned that panic only makes things worse. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just be present. Your brother taught you well." Jack smiled, the first truly bright smile she had seen from him. "He did. He taught me that taking care of someone doesn't mean fixing everything for them. Sometimes it just means staying close enough that they know they're not alone." Emma felt something warm unfurl in her chest, and for once it wasn't the familiar tightness of her condition. "I've felt very alone since moving here," she admitted. "You don't have to," Jack said simply. The words hung between them, full of quiet promise. Emma looked into his kind eyes and saw something she hadn't dared hope for since her diagnosis. She saw acceptance, understanding, the possibility of a future where her condition wouldn't define her entire existence. "I come to town for supplies every 2 weeks," Jack said, his voice carefully casual. Next time, perhaps you'd join me for lunch at the cafe, if you're feeling up to it, of course. Emma smiled, feeling lighter than she had in months. I'd like that very much. As they prepared to leave their makeshift shelter, Jack offered her his arm, not because she needed the support now, but as a gesture of companionship. She took it gratefully, appreciating both his kindness and his understanding of when help was needed and when it wasn't. They walked slowly back toward the main street, where the world looked newly washed and bright. The dust had been cleaned away by the rain, and the air sparkled with moisture and possibility. Jack, Emma said as they paused in front of the general store. Yes, Tommy would be proud of the man you've become. Jack's smile was soft and sad and grateful all at once. Thank you, Emma. That means more than you know. As he helped her into the wagon that would take her back to the boarding house, Emma realized that something fundamental had changed. For the first time since her diagnosis, she wasn't thinking about her condition as something that limited her life. Instead, she was thinking about all the possibilities that lay ahead. The cowboy's arms had indeed become her shelter, but not just from the storm. They had sheltered her from the fear and loneliness that had been her constant companions. In Jack Morrison, she had found someone who understood that strength came in many forms, and that sometimes the greatest act of love was simply staying close when the world became too hard to breathe. As her wagon rolled away from town, Emma touched her fingers to her lips and smiled. She could breathe freely now, and not just because the storm had passed, but the first time in years. She could breathe freely because she was no longer afraid of what tomorrow might bring.